Out to go live. My internet's a little slow, so.
That's okay. I totally understand.
Fantastic. Okay, looks like we are live now. So hello everybody, happy Western Wednesday. My name is Alexis. I'm the Vice President for University Pride with WSA. And today I'm here with Colleen. She's from the Office of Student Engagement. So she's just going to give us a little overview of the Office of Student Engagement as well as a look into fraternity and sorority life. So I'll let Colleen introduce herself.
Thanks, Alexis. Hi, everybody. My name is Colleen McInerney, and I am a graduate assistant in the Office of Student Engagement. I'm studying higher education and student affairs at Western in the College of Education and Human Development. I will be a two-time Bronco alum. I did my undergrad studies at Western, graduated in 2018 with a degree in computer information systems. So I have a lot of pride for WMU. I was a part of WSA when I was an undergrad student as well, and I served as the academic affairs chair. So it feels very cool for me to be able to like pop in and talk about Western and WSA and the Office of Student Engagement and all those things. So yeah, like Alexa said, I am a part of the Office of Student Engagement. I work primarily with fraternity and sorority life, but I can either speak to or point folks in the direction of anybody from our office, like RSO development or campus engagement or leadership programming, student media group. Those are all aspects that of campus that our office works with. So yeah, this is my first like live webinar sort of a thing. So it feels kind of funny to like be talking to my computer, but I'm sure Alexis, you will steer us in the right direction. So any questions that folks have, like I'd be happy to answer or like triage out however it works.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of awkward to talk to a computer too, especially when there's not people to see directly to your face. So I guess we can just start and say, can you give us an overview of the Office of Student Engagement, what they have to offer, and like what it is?
Yeah. So the like short answer would be like any student organization at Western. So WSA, for example, CAB is another really big one. Any fraternity or sorority organization, any student group is sort of like overseen by our office. Or Kat March is the grad assistant that does a lot of really awesome work with RSO development. And so I guess that's the root of the Office of Student Engagement. A lot of times back in a pre-COVID era where we could like put up tables and like engage with students at orientation or like over, in fall welcome or any students on campus tours or admissions visits, like we would get a lot of folks coming up and being like, I was a part of the newspaper in high school, or I was in honors club, or I like volunteered with this, or I'm really passionate about that. And so a lot of what we do is just helping students find their fit. I very much believe that finding a place to be involved outside of just the classroom kind of nourishes both your academic learning and then that like holistic, like the things that you're really passionate about. So yeah, a lot of the work that we do at its core is just helping students find their fit at Western and be involved in things and get engaged, and hence the name, the Office of Student Engagement.
Perfect answer. So can you explain kind of what you guys are doing in virtual times to get students connected to opportunities where they can seek places if they're not sure where to go?
Yeah, absolutely. So currently, we are working from a virtual platform, but the folks in our office have done a lot of really awesome work to keep students engaged. We're still all on our email, so whenever we get a question, we kind of go about it from there. But we've done a lot of things. I'll give kudos to Kate Bates. She's one of the folks in our office. She has done some really cool work with virtual escape rooms. Which if you've ever done an in-person escape room, you kind of go in with a group and it's your mission to figure out, like crack the code. Sometimes you go into another room and there's a lot of movement and thinking involved. And so same concept, but like from behind your computer screen, you kind of navigate through the virtual escape room. And we've done that as an office, and Kate and her leadership team put that on like LeadCore. They will facilitate escape rooms for student organizations. I know some of my fraternity and sorority life students have like been looking to get involved with some of that kind of stuff, because frankly, it is hard to be staying like tuned into things. We spend a lot of time doing exactly what we're doing now, like sitting down in front of the screen, like how can we find ways to keep keep it exciting and interesting, because I think that that like human connection is a lot of what a lot of us are missing these days. And so we've just looked for a lot of ways to get creative with engagement behind the screen.
Yeah, everything that you just touched on. I'm biased. I was a Bronco Bash intern, and then I'm in lead course, so I absolutely love like everyone that you've mentioned so far. I love the Office of Student Engagement, what they do.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you brought up Bronco Bash, because as I started talking about Kate and hyping up her virtual escape rooms, Bronco Bash is obviously one of the biggest events that our campus puts on. And this year it was put on from a virtual platform, both in the fall and then last week. So anybody who attended like in years previous knows that it is a hype event, like very big, lots of people. This year it was put on virtually. And our campus engagement team still rocked it out and made it work, like kind of going in and, you know, visiting the like the Sangren Mall from a virtual aspect and things like that. But yeah, I'm glad that you brought up Bronco Bash, Alexis.
Yeah, this is like one small opportunity that I thought off the top of my head, because I remember as a freshman getting all the free stuff, and so I know that they plan on bringing that back in the fall again, and they're looking for interns too. So if anyone watching this right now is interested in applying, go apply. It's a fun position.
Absolutely. Shameless plug. Apply away.
Yes, exactly. Do you want to talk a little bit about the Experience WMU platform and how RSOs can use that, and what the Office of Student Engagement does with that for students to find out about events?
Yes. I laugh a little when you say that, because I was actually just I'm still learning Experience WMU myself too, because I don't think I used it quite as much 4 or 5 years ago as a student, but I've grown to see how useful, and like the word that comes to mind first is like streamline, because when students go on Experience WMU, you can use it in a lot of ways. I'll say that. You can look for any registered student organization that you're interested in. So let's say you are an aviation student, or you're an art student, or you're a music or a business, like you can go on Experience WMU and look for all of the registered student organizations related to things that you're interested in, kind of start to get involved from there. Once you're a part of an organization, maybe you're in a leadership role, et cetera, et cetera. Experience WMU can be used as a way to update your rosters and keep track of forms and your constitution and your bylaws, and register events and keep track of that. And our office uses it a lot to keep track of what events our students are putting on, and like where students are being engaged, and how many people are attending, and what's working really well, and what can we maybe work on more. And so Experience WMU is very versatile, and we use it for a lot of different things. But I think the biggest takeaway for students is going in and seeing what's there to offer, and then using it to like kind of maintain and upkeep the organization throughout your years.
Perfect. So we're kind of teetering on the subject of like RSO development. What services or opportunities are there in the Office of Student Engagement for RSOs looking for development opportunities, like at the leadership level?
Yeah. So I would say that any leadership development interest, I would reach out to Gigi Stahl or Kate Bates. They are the two people that like all things leadership. They've put on things in the past. We've done Leaders Unplugged. And a new thing that they're looking to doing is like moving that into like a COVID safe event, local on campus thing. I don't know how much is public yet, so maybe that's like an enticement to reach out for some secrets that might be kept, or more information to learn. But all leadership things, they're doing a lot of online facilitations with some like really cool icebreakers, which sometimes when people hear the word icebreaker, they're like, oh, if I have to play the name game again, like I'm going to lose my mind. But they've done some really awesome ways to be, again, engaged, involved, tuning into building that leadership platform, which I know a lot of students at WMU like have come to find like, oh, wow, like a leader. I didn't think that was me. Like, no, that is me. Like, what ways can I develop that before I go out into the real world, and things like that. So yeah, Kate Bates, Gigi Stahl, two of the most amazing leadership leaders that I know.
Perfect. Yeah, I love both of them. So, opposite end of that, what would you say for freshmen that are coming into Western, either next semester or this semester, last semester, that haven't quite got involved yet? What would you suggest to them?
Yeah, I think that I would go back to Experience WMU, kind of just look up some things that you're interested in, like maybe type in some keywords. You could always reach out to, or any first year student could reach out to anybody in our office, and we would probably do a little, like, if it were me, if I got an email from somebody, like, hey, I just got to Western, and most often I receive the emails about like, I'm interested in joining a fraternity or a sorority, and then I'll have a conversation with that student, like, what things are you interested in? What did you do in high school? What do you want to be involved in? And we'll kind of figure out, like, what are some things that you could get involved in? Is it a student organization related to your major that you want to pursue? If it's a first year student, maybe you haven't figured it out yet. That's okay. It took me a while, like all that kind of stuff. But really at the core of it is just finding people to connect with. That way you can start to figure out, like, kind of that building your tribe, like figuring out who your people are on campus, like who can you turn to for help, and finding your home away from home. Is cliche as it sounds, it's true.
Exactly. Big part of college, right, is finding who you're comfortable with and who your friends are. So moving into that, kind of segueing into it, do you want to talk a little bit about fraternity and sorority life on Western's campus? Is that large, and then any details that you think might be pertinent to somebody tuning in?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, at Western, we have 4 councils of Greek life. We have the Multicultural Greek Council, the National Panhellenic Council, the College Panhellenic Council, and then the Interfraternity Council. To anyone that isn't involved in Greek life, those all just sound like a bunch of words. But the reason I say that off the bat is because 4 are, at their core, socially based, academically based, philanthropically, community service based organizations, but they all exist for the reason of getting people, like, connected to others that they feel share similar values and passions, but they're different. And so anybody looking or interested in, like, joining an organization, feel free to reach out to me. Like, I'd be happy to connect you with some of the student leaders from any of those 4 councils, fraternities and sororities, to learn more about. Yeah, I guess I'll end with that.
Sounds good. So were you involved in Greek life during your undergraduate years then
I
at
was.
Western?
I was a
Okay.
member of one of the College Panhellenic sororities. I'm a Chi Omega. And so, yeah, it's kind of cool to be back and, like, kind of be in a sort of mentorship role for some of those women as well, which is close to my heart. So it's pretty sweet.
Fantastic. Comes full circle, right?
Yeah, very much.
So how many organizations do we have in Greek life on Western's campus?
Oh, across all 4 councils, I think I almost don't want to give that answer because in case I'm wrong, but I want to say 37. I'll have to fact check myself because it's changed a little bit over the last couple of years. We've had some organizations join, we've had some leave across the councils. So I need to recheck my number. Sorry.
Used to be a student ambassador. I think 37 is about right. So you're good. I'm
Thank
pretty
you.
sure that
Thank you.
around there. A roundabout answer, right?
Ballpark.
Yeah, I guess. What would you say for students that want to get in Greek life, but there's that kind of the misconception is that it's really expensive to get involved with Greek life. Do you want to talk about a little bit about that, or what opportunities there are for students that might not necessarily have the financial backing to be involved in sorority or fraternity life?
Absolutely. So all of our chapters have, I think I speak for all of them when I say that they're willing to work with an individual interested in pursuing membership in one of their organizations to either roll out a payment plan. I know a lot of folks in chapter, like, I know very many people who worked their job, like part-time jobs, to pay their dues, like put themselves through and things like that, because we would be lying if we didn't recognize that there is a cost to it. And so ultimately, like, no chapter wants to a financial payment to stand in the way. There are scholarship opportunities available, whether from our local local chapters or on a more regional or national basis. So there's a lot of ways to navigate either scholarship opportunities or payment plans. It really boils down to, like, if membership is pursued, like, kind of getting a conversation going between that individual and the chapter and figuring out what works best for that person.
Perfect. What is the timeline? I think it's called rushing. When you join the organizations for fraternities and sororities, very inexperienced with the Greek life here.
That's okay. That's a good question. The answer varies depending on what council we're talking about. 2 of our councils do a more formal recruitment in the fall. There is an intake process that MGC and NPHC go through that isn't on necessarily the same timeline. So that answer really depends on which council you're looking at, and we could dive into that, but I think that that might be like a, if I don't want anyone that like is like, oh, I'm not in, whatever. But if anyone has questions on that as well, like please feel free to reach out. So yeah, short answer is it depends.
Perfect. So we've been saying a lot of different people's names. Just for anyone that's not familiar, where can they find your contact information or any of the other people that you've mentioned so far?
Yeah, absolutely. If you Google WMU OSE or WMU Office of Student Engagement, you should be taken to our website on Western's main platform page, and then probably on the left-hand side or at the bottom, there should be like a contact us, and we're all listed there.
Fantastic. All right. Can you talk a little bit about the student spaces and or when we can expect to be transitioning into in-person events again or anything like office student engagement that wise? I know the SOC was a space that a lot of students utilized, and some students are still kind of confused as to when it'll open, if it will open this semester.
Yeah, so we abide by any of the state policies that roll out. So whether it's like executive orders from the state, from the governor, etc., we are bound to those and the rules that come out from Western as a whole. So as of right now, we're looking at a timeline hopeful of February 1st being the soonest that we could go back to in-person gatherings in the Bernhard Center. Until that could, we've at this point we're all kind of used to like it gets a little closer, we wait and see if it extends, if it changes, but as we get closer, there is an RSO newsletter that Kat March, the graduate assistant for RSO development, they're listed on that contact page as well. They send out an RSO newsletter bi-weekly that includes the information, the most relevant information for the COVID-19 protocol. So if you keep an eye out for that, you'll be able to stay updated, or any student looking to get back into that talk space, or even just, I know a lot of student orgs hosted their meetings in the Bernhard Center and things like that. So that will be your probably best, most updated source of information, aside from just reaching out and asking, but that newsletter is really golden.
Perfect. All right. Do you just want to talk about, I guess, what the virtual spaces looked like for student organizations at large? I know it's hard to speak for all student organizations, but kind of what you've seen so far and the ways that they've adapted so students don't feel necessarily uncomfortable going into their first meeting of a new RSO.
Yeah, that's a good question. So just for clarity, just like how student orgs have adapted, like, getting off the ground.
Yeah, just kind of how they've adapted.
Sure. Yeah. I think a lot of students are doing exactly what we're doing here, like on Zoom. I think what can be challenging is like if there's a transition in leadership and that new board is like nervous themselves, and then they feel like it's on them to like welcome in new members or kind of just like leading the way for the first time. It can feel super nerve-wracking. I mean, I even get nervous still, like sitting here, like I'm by myself in my bedroom, but like it's just nerve-wracking because you're kind of leading a group of people. So I think that the transition has been really challenging and trying for a lot of students, because usually you have that physical presence of your friends or your support group, like your network of people that you're usually leading with. And it's tough to kind of be on your own behind the screen. But I think that students have been really resilient in the way of like learning a deeper level of support and understanding for one another. Like, hey, I know that was tough because like I've been there. I think that you did a great job. I've seen a lot of my students ask for help, maybe in ways that they wouldn't have before. And it's been for me as an advisor, it's been a really cool journey of like talking through like, yeah, that's hard. Like what can I do to like help you help your group, or like what can we do as a team, like where can we move things around on your plate and things like that. So I think it's been students have been really resilient in the transition into that virtual space, but it would be ridiculous to say it hasn't been tough. A lot of hours in Zoom and figuring out breakout rooms and numbers and things like that, but we're learning as we go.
Yeah. So have we experienced, I guess, as a campus at large, like experienced an influx of like new organizations coming with COVID, or like a lot of them disassembling, kind of a mix of both, or like what have we seen on Western's campus when it comes to student organizations?
As far as number of student organizations go, I'm trying to recall. To my knowledge, there hasn't been like a super big influx. There also hasn't been like a deep decrease in organizations as well. I would say that it's been fairly stagnant. Like groups that, especially as we went from the fall into the spring, last spring into the fall might have been a little bit more challenging because, last spring was when we had that initial like, oh man, time to go home. Like, what the heck's going on? Everyone sort of went into survival mode. The fall was pretty, like, that first full semester of being a lot of virtual aspects to it. Fall into this spring, we're all kind of like, all right, this is semester 2.5 of being virtual. Like, I kind of feel like I've got my footing. Yeah, I think that from there, groups are really, they kind of have gotten the hang of it. Everyone, I think, is kind of excited for and waiting for the day where it's like good and safe to go back in person. But as we continue in like this virtual space, I think that the number of student orgs has kind of remained pretty strong.
Awesome. That's good news. So I guess final question would be like, if a student is interested in starting an organization this year off the ground, like what advice would you give them, even in a non-COVID year, but how does it look different this year?
How does it look different for starting an org? That's a really good question. My answer would be thinking outside the box. Something I've learned about being in the virtual space is like taking what we used to do and copy and pasting it pre-COVID to like being in the virtual space doesn't always work. Because if we're used to, for example, like I don't know. I think that it's really effective and awesome to like not just take what we were doing and like try and put it in a Zoom room, but like kind of being like, okay, this is our opportunity to rethink what we were doing. What parts of it really worked before? What do we want to move forward with and continue to carry out? And then rather than just like put it online, what can we change up about it?
Awesome. Well, thank you for that answer. Do you have any last closing thoughts for anybody that's tuning in right now or watching at a later date about the Office of Student Engagement?
Closing thoughts. Thanks for having me. Happy Western Wednesday. If anyone has any questions about anything related to student activities, student engagement, student organizations on campus, insert word after student here. Feel free to contact any one of us. We'd be happy to chat with you and yeah, kind of go from there.
All right. Fantastic. Happy Western Wednesday, everybody. And catch you later.